Nico Iamaleava is out as Tennessee quarterback in kind of a shocking turn of events for the first time that we've seen in the NIL era. And it's one of those things, as I look at it, that it's both shocking that it happened this early, what we're 2 years into money in college football as a regular thing. And then it's also surprising that it took this long for a high profile player to have it unfold so publicly that they were leaving specifically because of money, that they were kind of cornering the team. And when the team didn't show up, they left specifically because they didn't get the contract or the money that they wanted. And in my opinion, you can disagree with the way that Nico and his dad and his agents went about this. That's fair. But what you have to recognize is that this is multiple instances of chickens coming home to roost for college football, for the NCAA, and Tennessee, I guess, in a way, too. There were a big part of these pushing the rules with Nico. It's kind of perfect that this is the player that this all folds out with, so you can really tell the story of what NIL has been in these first couple of years. But before we get too far into it, make sure that you like and subscribe to my channel. We're trying to get as many college football videos out as we can before the season, so make sure that you're along for the ride. So first off, for the NCAA, they fought so hard to not pay players and find all these different ways to say they're student athletes or say it's going to make unfair for other students at the school or this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, they were basically using the 13th Amendment, right? They were using fucking prison labor rules to not pay these players and say that education was more valuable. Not that education is nothing, but the amount of money that was being brought in by college football was not being put out. And then nowhere in life is there an equal percentage for the working man, which essentially the college football players are the working man in this system. But there at least has to be some compensation. And it has to be actual dollar compensation. It can't just be, a discount to go to school, right? Or a free ride to school. That's not actual pay. And they're still not actually paying them. And this is what happens. You're still not actually paying them. You're still not writing contracts. You're still not giving revenue sharing or whatever it is. It's not with the school. It's not with the team. It doesn't matter. It's name, image, and likeness. It's this side thing. So if you're not going to step up and pay and write in a contract that is a contract to play for money, not to be a player on the team, and you get money from other people for that the team pays you for money. That is what would keep players around. And it's not going to keep players around forever, but it can avoid a situation like this. And there's a couple things that are happening in this situation, right? So first off, the NCAA holds out for all this time, both on paying and then the stupid transfer portal. I remember, 10 years ago? Maybe even less than that, where if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. And that, I don't think that that's necessarily great, but the evolution of this is from a perspective of student athletes. The college football and the NCAA in general has a vested interest in continuing to call these kids, men, student athletes. And therefore, they're kind of tied to transfer rules similar to what if you didn't want to go to Tennessee anymore as a student and you wanted to go, to Vanderbilt or wherever. He's not going to go to Vanderbilt, but I'm saying if you wanted to just go to a different school, if you were a regular student, you would just transfer at the end of a semester, the end of a term, whatever it is. And that's what they have set up. So now we have these two transfer portals, the winter transfer portal, which most players are going to transfer during the winter transfer portal because that's right at the end of the season. They want to get in for spring practice. And even that is a fucked up situation. We'll talk about that later, but kids were transferring, having to enter the transfer portal during the playoff. And some of them weren't playing, but still, it's a stupid system for that to happen. And then you go through all these spring practices, you have all these kids transfer, and then you have the spring transfer portal, which opens, I think on the 16th is what they're saying. That in and of itself is stupid. And then you add in that they didn't want to pay players. They didn't want to write contracts. So the money that they're getting is from some sponsorships, essentially, is what they're getting. So What is to stop somebody to say, all right, Tennessee, you have no chance of getting another quarterback. You know that, right? You didn't get any. You didn't recruit anybody. There's no 5-star freshman coming in. There's no transfer quarterback that is you're gonna get at the end of the season, because that would have happened in the winter transfer portal. There's no other big quarterbacks that are really saying that they're going to go out in spring transfer portal. Maybe that'll change, right? Maybe now that there's opportunity, we see this happening. Maybe this is going to be a landfall of quarterbacks in the spring transfer portal. But Nico can sit there and say, "All right, Tennessee, pay up. And if you don't pay up, I will leave. In 4 days, the transfer portal opens. I will leave. And what will you have then?" And we don't know exactly what happened, right? It seems like the original reporting was that Tennessee dismissed him, which I was like, huh, kind of good for Tennessee, right? They stood their ground. But then more and more reports are that Josh Heupel and the Tennessee coaching staff couldn't reach Nico for 2 days. And then when they finally got him, he's like, "Well, yeah, I entered the transfer portal." So maybe Josh Heupel's trying to get ahead of things and say, "Yeah, we dismissed him," but it seems like Nico dismissed you. Now, if it's true that Nico dismissed Tennessee and was like, "All right, I'm going somewhere else," and it had already entered the name of the transfer portal, he's making over $2 million a year at Tennessee right now. Somebody else is offering him money. I don't think that he's doing it on blind faith. So it's interesting to see where he lands, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But it's interesting to see where he lands, because it seems like that deal was done, right? That deal was done maybe before he started talking to Tennessee, which is, again, there's no tampering rules. There's no ties to these schools because there's no contracts. They're not employees of the school. They're choosing to be at that school. And that's what you get, right? That's another chicken coming to fucking roost for college football. Now, I said specifically, Nico is the perfect player for this to all unravel with, because he was the first big NIL deal for a incoming freshman. And this was in 2023. And he got this $8 million, $2 million a year contract coming to Tennessee. And the NCAA wanted to rule him ineligible because they wanted to say that NIL deals couldn't be a part of what recruited a player. And what a stupid understanding of the rules. That, like, oh, you can get here and then you can make money. But you can't say, we're going to give you this money when you get here. Which, again, it's just fucking moving things around so that at the end of the day, the college football pool of money that's going to all these people involved, all these fucking people that have been holding it away from the actual people making money, so these coaches can make $10 million a year. How many coaches do we have making $10 million a year now? It's all a way of moving these cups around, doing this fucking shell game, so that they don't have to pay the players. And they're burned here. They get burned. This is what happens. You get burned. So Nico was supposed to be ruled ineligible because he got this NIL deal coming in, and it was part of the recruitment. They go to I don't know if they go to the Supreme Court, but they took it to court, and it was ruled that no, teams, schools can use NIL money to recruit players. Obviously, right? Obviously. You're going to say that these players can make money, but they can only make it once they get to school. You have these recruits, and this is part of the college football apparatus that you, ESPN, all these teams, all these players, all these people have made, where you have these players that are famous coming into fucking college now because of the ESPN 300, because of the Elite 11, because of, probably more so social media, but also all these other apparatuses, the 7-on-7 tournaments that Nike has built. All these stockholders in college football have built these things to make these college football players famous by the time they get into college football. And you're saying that they can't say, all right, I want money when I get there, which they legalize the money. Of course, the shell game makes it so the school can't play it, but you're saying they can't go get that when they get there. So Nico in Tennessee pushed that. And I saw Paul Feinbaum, who is obviously biased, Tennessee alum, saying that Tennessee went to bat for Nico. No, Tennessee went to bat for Tennessee. They got a 5-star recruit. Tennessee has been shit. Tennessee has been shit for so many years. And they were building it back up under Josh Heupel, and they built their team back up, and under Nico as the starting quarterback made it to the college football playoff for the first time. They got their ass kicked. Maybe they weren't as good as we thought they were, right? They kind of didn't show up in any of their big games this season, but they won enough games. They won 10 games, got into the college football playoff. But Tennessee didn't go to bat for Nico. Tennessee went to bat for Tennessee. Nico went to bat for Nico. And it opened up this world of you can pay players to come to your school. You can pay players to recruit them. I think that was probably already happening in the transfer portal, right? But now it's happening with recruits. And we see that happening. We saw Darian Mensah get that huge contract to go to fucking Duke away from Tulane, which is the shitty, again, a shitty side of the fucking portal. Why should Tulane, who did a great job recruiting a 4-star quarterback, lose him to Duke just because Duke has more money? But that's the world we live in. Carson Beck getting that huge contract to go to Miami. And how many players do we see? Bryce Underwood, a $10 million deal to go to Michigan? But again, Nico is the one that breaks that open with Tennessee. He's the first one to get this massive contract coming in, and it's part of his recruitment. $2 million was never going to be the peak of the market. It was the peak of the market then. But Nico Iamaleava says, all right, I got $2 million coming in. I led you to your first college football playoff in school history, the first time you've been in the running really since the 90s when you won your last championship. I'm worth more than Carson Beck. I'm worth more than Darian Mensah, who hasn't done anything. I'm worth more than Bryce Underwood, even though Bryce Underwood might be more talented. And all these things about whether Nico's talented or not, that is irrelevant to the conversation, right? What's relevant to the conversation is accomplishments, which he went to the college football playoff. You can say it's the Tennessee team or whatever, but it's relevant that he went to the college football playoff. He was the quarterback that took him there. And again, that Tennessee had no other options. So Nico could go and say, all right, pay me or I'm gone. And he's gone. And again, we don't know exactly. It'll come out later on how that happened. I think he walked away, and Tennessee's trying to get out ahead of that. But this has, again, busted another door open. Nico busts the door open of players getting paid to go to a school, specifically, that is okay, that NIL could be a part of it. And now he busts open the door of hold out, go find another school, put the team on their back. So what are you going to do about this college football? What are you going to do about this? Because this is good for nobody. Maybe Nico is going to get a bigger contract out of it. Maybe some team that's going to come get him. I'm kind of nervous that it's going to be Oregon. This seems like something that the Ducks have been doing lately. And I don't think that this is the player you want to get in bed with. I think that Dante Moore showing that he would come and sit, it shows a dedication to the team and dedication to getting better. But someone is gonna end up with Nico. I have a feeling it's gonna be West Coast or a Big 12 team or something. But that also doesn't really matter to this conversation, right? It will when it comes around. It will come around. But right now, the speculation of where he's gonna go doesn't matter, because what matters is when he shows up there, what is the contract? What do we find out about the recruitment away from Tennessee prior to him going to the meeting, right? What do we find out about what is essentially tampering? That is what's important to this larger story. Because Nico's just one player. Nico is a sophomore next year. If he has 2 good seasons, he's gone in 2 years, right? College football players are always rotating. It's the trends. It's the rules. It's the things that are going to bust open because of this. But the question is, what are you going to do about this college football? What are you going to do? I know there's talk about revenue sharing. I know that's coming in the future, but is there going to be contracts involved? Are you going to change the transfer portal? Why are there 2 transfer portals? Why does one of them happen during the season? Why does one of them happen after you've got your team together in spring practice? What does that make sense? Why are there players cycling into the team instead of, boom, after this point your team is set and players are on your team? Why is that not how it works? I think it was, I can't remember if it was Urban Meyer or it was some former college football coach that was saying the NCAA or college football, it's not really NCAA. College football wants to stick to this academic calendar, but why can't college football go to its own calendar? And again, it goes back to that we have to be student athletes, all this kind of stuff. That facade is gone. We know they're not student athletes. Go to your own specific calendar, make one transfer portal after March, whatever, or April, whatever, whenever it is, your team is set. From January 20th, the end of the national championship game, to March 20th, that's the transfer portal. After that date, your team is set. Why is that so difficult to do? Right? Then you don't have this team stuck with a player being like, I'm gonna leave. I don't know what you're gonna do about it. I'm gonna leave. You don't have the money to pay me, and I'm gonna go get the money elsewhere. And put in some tampering rules. Like I know that the movement is not to lock players down, right? With these college players, I think that is not what people want to see because of all the years of players not having any agency. But Warren Sapp said it. Now the rabbit has the gun. It ain't no fun when the rabbit has the gun. I think it's crazy. It's fun. It's interesting. But it's not good for college football. And I think a lot of things right now are not good for college football. And there needs to be somebody that takes the reins and says, what the fuck are we doing here? Let's get this sorted out. If it's going to be amateur, then it's amateur. If it's going to be pro, it's pro. And it's pro. It's semi-pro, right? Make rules for it to be semi-pro. Make it its own unique thing, but make rules. Don't have this crazy anything goes rules. I mean, it's not just anything goes with players, it's anything goes with teams. We saw how many times these teams are leaving these conferences and it's not done. Like the Pac-12 is a whole other story about how that conference is going to survive and what Oregon State and Washington State are doing and their relationship with the Mountain West. All these things are just so crazy because there's no rules in place. And, you can say, well, Tennessee is a victim of this. No, Tennessee is not a victim of this. Tennessee, if anything, is a harbinger. Tennessee, if anything, is a tale to tell of why to be careful and understand what it is that you're doing. Because Tennessee pushed for Nico. Tennessee wanted a player that wanted to get paid to be there. And that was specifically what he wanted, was to get paid to be there. Now, that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with Nico wanting to get paid for his talents. That's why they're going into college football. They're not going into college football because they love the Tennessee Volunteers or whatever. Maybe that's part of it. But at the end of the day, they all want to get to the NFL. At the end of the day, nowadays, they want to get paid when they're in college. That's great. They should be. But if you're pushing the boundaries to make that happen, as Tennessee did, that's going to come back to burn you. And it burned you. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm not fucking saying fuck Nico. Whatever. If you want to say fuck Nico, that's fine. How he dealt with it, we don't know, right? Maybe he did some things that were unsavory. Obviously, they seem slightly unsavory. But again, you're playing by the rules. And when there's no rules, you just play. You just do whatever you can do. But if I'm Tennessee, I'm pushing for rules because I don't want to get burned by this again. And if I'm anybody else and I see this, like, okay. Like, let's figure this out a little bit. Let's put some guardrails in place. We don't have to go to the NFL style contracts and all this kind of stuff, but there needs to be some guardrails in place because it's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to anybody to have it running like this. But it's chaos. So let's see what happens. Let me know in the comments what you think about where Nico's going and what he did. I think there's going to be some nasty comments on this one. But remember, he's playing by the rules, of which there are none. This is these colleges, the NCAA, college football, whatever it is, this is their chickens coming to roost. So remember that before you start hating on somebody. Start hating on a 20-year-old man for going and getting his money. Maybe his dad and his agents who are trying to get their money too, but still. And let me know where you think he's going to show, where you think he's going to end up, and what you think the recruiting story was for that. Other than that, thanks for watching this video. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and like I said, if you made it this far, leave a comment. I'm always going to tell you to do that. If you would like to watch more of my videos, I do have those for you. I did a video that released yesterday about Notre Dame, so go ahead and click on that one here, and we'll see what they can do this next season. Up here, I've got my most popular video about the perfect Power 5 conference realignment. Check that one out there. And over here, I've got my subscribe link. Other than that, we'll check you next time. See ya!